This whole matter began after Christine Holgate awarded executives with $3,000 Cartier watches. But it turns out she was actually within her rights to do so.
So this actually came out in the Senate hearing yesterday, that she'd broken no laws, that she'd basically transgressed, if you like, the pub test, as she said. And it was one of these things where quite clearly it was drawn in by Kimberley Kitching, a Labor member. Where that information came from was clearly very deep inside Australia Post. So somebody was out to try and discredit Christine Holgate. And then, of course, it raised the ire of the Prime Minister. And he went to the floor of Parliament and said if she won't stand down, then she must go. And as a result of that, then the mechanism was put in place for Christine Holgate to be gone. She alleges illegally. She did not, she says, resign. She did not step aside. She was prepared to step aside, but she actually drafted a memo. And that memo was to show the board what she was prepared to do. The board leaked that memo, and as a result, then she was out the door. But let's go to just a little of yesterday, this quite dramatic hearing in the Senate. And this is Christine Holgate explaining what she thinks actually happened.
The simple truth is, I was bullied out of my job. I was humiliated and driven to despair. I was thrown under the bus so the chairman of Australia Post could curry favour with his political masters.
Yeah, so Danica, that's the start of it. So she believes it's politically inspired. And Tony Nutt, who of course was a former advisor, senior advisor to John Howard, former director of the Liberal Party, he's on the board of Australia Post. He's telling her basically, look, your time's up. The Prime Minister's really out there. That's what she's claiming. And of course, really you can see the connection here between the government and indeed very senior Liberal operatives and the board of Australia Post.
I mean, extraordinary comments made by Christine Holgate yesterday. Ross, what about the chairman, though, of Australia Post? He denies Christine Holgate's allegations that he lied to a Senate hearing. So what happens now?
So the fact of the matter is, it's what does the chairman, Lucio Di Bartolomeo, what does he do? So he picked up just a little about this in the hearing yesterday. Let's go to him.
I called the board because the minister, the discussion I had with the minister was that they wished to take this investigation and have Christine stand aside while the investigation took place.
I see.
That's the reason that I called the board, for us to discuss and consider that.
Did Mr. Nutt not inform Ms Holgate that it was the Prime Minister's wish that she be stood aside?
I did not inform her that at all.
No, Mr. Nutt, is he not informed her to that effect? Is that's the evidence before the committee?
I'm not aware that he...
I see.
I don't recall that at all.
I see.
So there was no formal direction.
No.
However, you followed the wishes of what the minister had put to you, and you put that to the board. So regardless of a formal direction or not, you did the minister and the Prime Minister's bidding, didn't you?
I think as board members, you take on board the concerns, the desires, the wishes of the shareholders. That doesn't mean that the board will then do as they wish.
But they did.
Ross, Christine Holgate's position has now been filled, but as we heard from the chairman there, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, so that's true. Paul Graham, who's a Woolworths executive, now comes in as the next chief executive. But the chairman, well, he said yesterday that he is absolutely going nowhere.
And given that Ms Holgate this morning has called for your resignation, would it not be better for Australia Post if you were to leave now as well?
I think Australia Post has been taken through a very difficult patch, and my view is, and until I believe differently, I will not be resigning. I certainly don't believe it would help. I think it would further hinder the organisation going forward.
Yeah, so Danica, he's not going anywhere. The new chief executive doesn't start until September. Christine Holgate said she would really like to have the job back. And it was interesting to note that the head of human resources was sitting right alongside her. That's the current head of human resources at Australia Post, sitting right alongside her yesterday in that meeting, acting in a personal capacity. So quite fascinating. But one final point for you, and that is, who on earth, if you're sitting out there today, and the Prime Minister came and tapped you on the shoulder and said, now is the time for you to do your duty for the country and to come and run this government business. Who on earth would do it? For goodness sakes, this year there have been expenses scandals that have turned out not to be expenses scandals with 3 people. So first of all, you've got Christine Holgate. Then you've also got the next person, James Shipton, the chairman of ASIC, who was forced to stand down and then resigned as a result of an expenses scandal when it was shown that he was quite within his rights to spend that money. And this man, Daniel Crennan, the man who was the head of enforcement at ASIC, who was there to basically take on the Royal Commission and send people to the courts and send them to jail if there was wrongdoing. He's also gone as a result of an expenses scandal that wasn't an expenses scandal. So who on earth in the private sector would ever do a government job when the rules can change so sharply and as a result of a political whim?
Absolutely extraordinary. Do you think then, in terms of flow-on effects, it will affect the attitude of senior executives in private enterprises?
How can it not?
Yeah.
They go to a job where they're paid less, where there's more accountability in Senate committees, there's more gotcha moments, and at the end of it all, they suddenly find that the rules have changed when they think, in fact, it's shown that they have acted within the rules. So the rules clearly have got some fundamental problems as well, and as does government whim.